Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. This is the study session for the Cathedral City City Council for Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. And we will start off our meeting with a roll call.
Councilmember Gordon,
Here.
Councilmember Lamb,
Here.
Councilmember Ross, Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez,
Here.
Mayor Gregory.
Here, Councilmember Ross let us know that she had a medical appointment today and had needed recovery. So I would move that she be excused from this meeting and from the later regular session. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Gregory and a second by Councilmember Gordon to excuse Councilmember Ross's absence for both the study session and the regular meeting. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Gordon,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez,
Yes.
Mayor Gregory.
Yes.
Motion carries, all ayes.
Thank you so much. The next item on our agenda is agenda finalization. Are there any changes to this agenda?
There are no changes, Mayor.
Thanks so much. The next item on our agenda is,
Mayor, I do want to note one correction to the closed session title.
oh,
So under the closed session title, it's only going to be the Cathedral City Firefighters Association, the CCFA.
thank you so much. And I'm sure the city attorney is going to pick that up too when he does his reading us into it. Thanks so much. The next item on our agenda is public comments on non-agenda items. Are there any speaker cards for non-agenda items?
Mayor, I did not receive any speaker
Are
cards.
there any online comments on non-agenda items?
I see none, Mayor.
Thanks so much. Are there any written comments on non-agenda?
There are none, Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. Then we'll move on with our study session. Our first item in the study session is item 2A, the Desert Recreation District Services Update. I see the Assistant City Manager, but I'm going to throw it to the City Manager anyways to introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is one part of a two-part presentation, and Ann Ambrose is going to lead it off to take this back to early 2025 with some of our early agreements with the Desert Recreation District. And then as well, we have Anna Velasquez and Scott Sear to provide a presentation from the Desert Recreation District. With that, Ann?
Great. Thank you, Andy. Good evening, Mayor, council members. So by way of background, through the passage of Measure W, our residents overwhelmingly supported as one of those initiatives joining the Desert Recreation District to provide parks programming and improved parks maintenance. On February 12th, 2025, both our City Council and the Desert Recreation District Board members entered into two agreements. One was a services agreement outlining maintenance services for the core city parks and preliminary programming, as well as a tax exchange agreement that would provide payments for DRD services. This would have been a direct allocation of a portion of our taxes, but this particular item has not been implemented yet, as the city has not yet been able to go through with an annexation with the district. So we are currently operating under a direct bill service. In the services agreement, we outlined what our initial costs and budget were, and DRD is directly billing us for those services provided. So in this transition working with DRD, the council has asked for quarterly updates from DRD on the status of our programming and maintenance services. And so tonight we have Community Services Coordinator Anna Velasquez and Public Information and Legislative Affairs Officer Scott Sear are here to provide that presentation. And then, as our city manager said, Dr. Martin, the district general manager, will be back on April 12th to provide a full update on the district's finances and its
So
status.
is that April 12th or August 12th?
I'm sorry, August 12th. I thought I had changed that. I apologize. I think I changed it and didn't save it. August 12th. And also in our ongoing discussions with DRD, we had anticipated that the annexation would have been approved or closer to approval by this point. So, and our original services agreement was only for 1 year, so we will be working with DRD and our team to provide an updated agreement for services that'll probably span a few years to cover our maintenance and programming costs. The fiscal impact, what we have budgeted for fiscal year 25-26, which is our first full year of operations with DRD, is $1.798 million. And those total expenditures through May 31st are the following. So we have about 1.42 million in park maintenance and 248,000 for recreation programming. While we have 1 month's billing yet to be fully paid out, we do anticipate that we probably will be over in our park maintenance costs, mainly due to our utility costs being higher than I think what we had originally budgeted for. And so these are discussions that we will have with the DRD staff and our public works staff to make sure that we are finding a budget that we can maintain and can support. And with that, unless there's any other questions of the council of me, I will turn it over to the DRD staff.
Are there any questions on this is the fiscal? Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez.
Thank you for the presentation. Good evening. Now, my question is, the professional services, $593,000. Can you tell us what that is? Can you break that down a little bit?
I didn't come prepared with the exact staffing numbers tonight, but this is for the DRD staff that are actually working at the facilities, the, what are the? Park attendants, recreation staff. The park attendants. Recreation staff is under the recreation programming, but these are the attendants that are working at the various parks. And I can turn it to my colleagues behind me to answer any specific questions of staffing levels.
Please, thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, respected members of the council. My name is Scott Zier, Public Information and Legislative Officer with Desert Recreation District. I'm joined with Ana Velasquez, our Community Service Coordinator, and of course, our General Manager, Dr. Gabriel Martin, to answer any questions, and we've got a great presentation on some of the things that Desert Recreation District has been doing in the city of Cathedral City.
I think we look forward to hearing that, but we had a few fiscal questions first, so.
For sure.
Mayor Pro Tem had asked.
Yes, my question was, can you tell us how is the money for professional services broken down?
So that is, according to the study, that is the park attendants that are all 6 parks. That is the recreation staff that pays part of my salary, the supervisor's salary as well. And I believe any training for any onboarding staff that we did have to hire in order to start the services here in Cathedral City.
Now, that is different from the maintenance and operations, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, I'm not quite sure if this question is for you or for our staff, is that we had anticipated or budgeted $1 million approximately per year. Are we on track, or are we going to be off budget?
That is a question
Maybe-
for Gabriel.
So we did have 1.7 million was what was budgeted for park operations. So that was under Measure W. We had 5 buckets generally for funding. So there was $1 million towards the ambulance program, $1 million towards roads, $1 million towards park maintenance, $1 million towards operations, so programming or community center operations, and then $1 million of debt service for the future community center, or the funding for the community center. The funding, what had been budgeted, knowing that we were going to be still in startup and that DRD would not be able to do as much programming as would be desirable if we had our own facility, was a smaller amount in programming and a little bit higher amount in the park maintenance. And again, this was sort of our first year out to see what the overall costs would be, having our parks kind of fully maintained. And this is an area that we can continue to negotiate and work with DRD on what is the amount of funding that we can afford to put into the parks to support them.
Okay, so we're going to be continuing to evaluate as time goes on after the first year, second year, to see what the expenditures are.
Yes, this is the first full year of expenditures we have with DRD fully operating the parks. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we have a services agreement that's only valid for 1 year. And so now that we're into our second year and we haven't fully gone into the annexation, we will be working with them to identify and go through what those costs are to make any budget adjustments that we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Others? So if I could just clarify, because the picture changed a little bit at least in my mind, because I know this, we had gone into and we anticipated that this year would be going, and like you said, we had hoped at this point to be getting to more of a merger. So my understanding is, when we started off, we kind of negotiated back and forth with DRD and said, these are the things we would like to have, these are the frequency of things we would like to have. And then DRD said, well, it's going to cost about this much, and there were some compromises made at that time.
Yes.
And then that's where we had our budget. So it looks like it's gone over. So I guess I would say, okay, well, that happens, especially in the first year. If we stood up a whole department of our own, that would happen. But we're not just going to, hopefully, just keep going forward with saying, okay, well, we had wanted these things, and so whatever it costs, just bill us.
Right.
And now that we know what it costs, there's going to be a re-examination and say, okay, well, we wanted these things, but if we needed to trim back to get within budget, what would we need to trim here, trim there? You can't really trim water. There are some things that are hard. You could maybe try to do like one would do at home, see if you can adjust the physical realm by either improving the sprinkler system or reducing the watered areas or that kind of stuff, which we don't normally do a lot of that in parks because we want a grass area, but sometimes, you can. So, but also I think, we would look at, and I know Mayor Pro Tem hit on some of the large items. Hopefully we would look at those and say, well, do we need that level of staff, especially because DRD probably has learned on their side too, from a year of operation, where they have people where they don't have,
Right.
where they probably can share people or they don't need the frequency. So is that process going to go forward?
Yes.
Okay.
And we've already been in communication with DRD about that. They're preparing those numbers of kind of their budget assessment so that we can sit down and have actual information to look at and evaluate to make sure that we are operating within what we can afford.
Good, because I know you talked about some pots of money, but it's not unlimited, and even those pots are meant to include some setback for extraordinary items.
Yes.
So, we can't even spend up right to that. We need to build up a reserve, I guess you would say, for extraordinary items or things that are just going to need to be replaced at some point.
Yeah.
Those types of things. So I'm glad to hear that process is going.
Yes.
Mayor, if I may, I introduced this as the first part of a two-part presentation, and it may even be longer than that. But tonight really was focused on park maintenance, program services, and really the impact that the Desert Recreation District is having tonight. They have a board meeting tonight as well, where they will be considering their budget for the upcoming year. They have some other discussion points, and we are looking to bring this back on August 12th as well, for continued discussions on the financial side of the equation.
Well, the
agreement-
presentation started with financials, so
Of course.
I don't think we're wanting to go into great detail either, but
It sets the stage.
right off the top, I think it deserves some feedback
Yes.
from us about.
It sets the stage. And I think as we move forward, the agreement that Ms. Ambrose mentioned that was executed in February of 2025, that was meant to be a bridge. And at this juncture, we're not looking at annexing into the Desert Recreation District. And I think it's prudent for us to really shift our efforts to focus on a multi-year service agreement.
Yes.
And as we do that, that's the opportunity for us to examine the service level and to examine our experience, both the city's experience and Desert Recreation District's experience working in Cathedral City. So I think we have the opportunity to continue to evaluate that and to right-size that services agreement moving forward.
Okay, and I think that makes sense, and that we're moving from a focus on the annexation to a focus on contract management, for lack of a better term. So I guess that's where the Mayor Pro Tem I took from his line of questioning, and I are just trying to clarify that that is a process that's underway and will be ongoing. So yes, and as far as the annexation and more finances, we can look forward to that in August. Thank you so much. If there's no other questions by council on finances, we're ready for your fun presentation.
Perfect. We got it for you guys. So once again, Scott's here with the Desert Recreation District. We have Anna Velasquez, our Community Service Coordinator, and Dr. Gabriel Martin. And it's just a really pleasure to be here. We've had an amazing time working not only with each and every one of you, with the city manager, assistant manager, and your entire staff, but also more importantly is the community. So what we're doing is highlighting some of the stuff we actually were able to do and conduct through this year, and we're really excited to present it to you. So with that, we'll start it, and then I'll go to I got to figure out the buttons here. There it is. So the Partnership Foundation, so it's this service provided was park maintenance over 6 community parks, community-based programs, park and available facilities, and continued summer swim program at the Cathedral City High School. So we really wanted to cover each and every aspect and continue that service that you guys already had within your community going out throughout the year, but also to elevate it, which we like to say is the only way Desert Recreation District can have, and really put the community first and really engage with them. And I think that's where our specialty is really connecting with community members on all levels. So with that being said, park maintenance, we'll go right into it. Now this was something that really blew me away. This was the first time I really got to get in depth with the park maintenance team and see how, I'm just gonna use this word crazy, they are, but in all the right ways for our team. So the city parks that we see include Dennis Keat Soccer Park, Panorama Park, Ocotillo Park, Century Park, Esperanza Park, and Patriot Park. Now, maintenance focused is daily visibility and reporting. We have a great relationship with the city, police, and just, public works. Its communication is key for us. Opening and closing, cleaning, making sure that the parks are ready for your users, whether it's, entrance, parking lot, or the restrooms. The restrooms are key, and we really want to make sure that we put a lot of attention to those, because that's the one thing that the community, especially now, really needs access to. And then coordinating with city staff and public safety to make sure that anything we see, whether it's graffiti, whether it's something wrong, water leaks. I remember, throughout this year, we had an issue with the dog park, where the grass was getting a little kind of run down in this one area, and our team loved them to death. They took the initiative, and I think they went to a local store, grabbed some grass, and took care of it, because that's the kind of things we like to do, is really take that initiative. Now, when we were out there with our team and understanding what they do on the park maintenance, myself, I was surprised to see how our team goes as far as one of those where we do not want to just recommend, hey, you need a new water fountain or you need a new toilet. I've seen our guys really get down there, actually come across this common goal of, let's see if we could fix it and do it the right way. And Robert Hoppy, our superintendent, is just I call him our evil genius, because he's out there and then there's this really nasty water bowl and next thing you know, we're asking if he replaced it, and no, he just got down there and really got to it and fixed it, and it works absolutely perfect. So that's the stuff that Desert Recreation District is looking at, is not only, step one is, can we repair some of this stuff? Save the district some cost, save the city some cost, and actually, if we repair stuff on our end and have that knowledge, it actually gets these facilities up and running ASAP. But also going across every one of the facilities, whether it's a slide, checking if these slides are okay, checking if the bolts are right, and of course, if they're up to code. And so we want to make sure if something's at a risk to your residents, whether it's in a facility or at a park, that we are going to shut it down. We're not going to ask you questions. We're going to shut it down, take that into responsibility, and then also communicate with the city staff to make sure that you guys are on the same page. One of our main goals this year is also being communicative on when we're going to be shutting down the parks for reseeding, because I know that's a really impact to the community, but also moving forward is our team wants to make sure that we are on the same level, and the community is the number one that we are communicating with them on when their parks are going to be open. We refer to it as a spa day for our parks. And then we'll go to the next slide. So this one, programming has started in Cathedral City. So we got a lot of stuff, and this is just one of our really cool programs, and I want to, congratulate and recognize Cynthia, who was our community service supervisor, who recently left the district for another city in San Bernardino, so she's really excited about that, and we just like all our staff to grow, but also one of the amazing people behind Cynthia, and I think was doing such a great work, and she's an asset to our organization, but Ana Velasquez, who is now taking the lead on a lot of our Cathedral City Park programming. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ana Velasquez, our Community Service Coordinator.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, members of the public today. You want numbers? I have numbers for you today. So one of the great things that we're doing in Cathedral City is many opportunities or invitations that we've accepted over at the library, Salvation Army, at the senior center as well. So just to give you an idea and highlighting some current activities we're doing, our Kids Craft Club, which we do once a day, we're seeing about 30 to 45 kids showing up for that. The Summer Feeding Program, which we assisted with the library too, that was in the month of June and July, where we fed about 20 to 25 children and their families. The Kids Club, which is over at one of the housing projects in River Canyon, is caring for about 14 children during the school year season. The Water Day, in partnership with the Cathedral City Fire Department, saw about 300 children this year and another 300 the previous year. Popsicles in the Park that we brought over to Cathedral City for the first time ever was to celebrate Parks and Recreation Month in July. We saw 75 kids over at Ocotillo Park. And Coffee and Conversation at the Senior Center, for instance, is averaging about 10 participants per day. And we're bringing over speakers, field trips that the Senior Center has never seen before. And just to give you an idea, August 7th, we are taking the seniors over to the Idlewild Nature Center, and we're transporting them, no fees associated with that experience. Some upcoming highlights I'd like to mention is our wellness walks over at Esperanza Park, the mural painting as well, which I'll discuss in the future. The participation in all planned events here at Cathedral City, Spooktacular, Snowfest, Halloween, Dress Up Day, the backpack giveaway this weekend that the police department is hosting. We are one of their partners as well. And we use those opportunities to engage with our residents and to ask what they want to see and what we're doing good and what we're not doing so good. Holiday events, as I mentioned, and also the famous Movies in the Park that I know the residents really, really enjoyed in October, but we're gonna do a little bit of a switch on that and bring them over in December because the feedback was it was a little warm or it got, a little dark too early or too late. So we're going to move those over and adjust that as the community wanted to see. And with that, I don't wanna break this, but there we go. I didn't break it. With that, I'd like to highlight other library-based programs as well. Once again, we're hosting there once, twice, 3 times a week. We're averaging about 30 participants. One of the big programs that we did co-lead and we did staff for was the Paint with Pace summer program, which hosted about 30 children on both dates. I know we had a few of the art commissioners attending, and they gave us the feedback that they wanted to continue this with the idea that they'd receive the funding in the future. Once again, the Water Day was a big hit, the pop-up events at the park. We are bringing art supplies, we're bringing over any activities for the kids, bracelet making opportunities, and that's really to engage the kids, and the kids come over to our stations, and it's a really fun time for the families. Another one of our opportunities that I failed to mention on here, but I'd like to mention verbally, was a Strolling with Strollers, which was moms met at the park. They had a meetup over at Esperanza Park, and they want to see that return this fall. So we're going to bring that mommy and me experience as well. And once again, this is just co-highlighting again, events over at the Senior Center, line dancing, Zumba, you name it, we're there. I did just recently hire a yoga and meditation contract instructor, which will be starting to program there this fall as well. And we also are offering my team is really good at initiating programs that are not seen anywhere in the district. So we do the plant bingo, for instance. We do the mic night, karaoke night, you name it. We're probably going to try it at least once. All right. And again, I'm just trying to highlight everything my team is really proud to present to you all. And again, we're currently servicing heavily over at the Senior Center. Now, the contract with the Salvation Army is still pending. We were hoping that we'd be servicing there sooner than later just because their gymnasium, that is my hope for Santa this year, that we can get a big gymnasium like that, because I've got all the instructors. We hired heavily, but we understand that, there was some pullback and some renegotiation. So we're hoping that we can ignite that service agreement starting this next month, actually. But with that, the team is still ongoing. So we finished pickleball classes at the park. We have a tennis program coming up at the park. So we ignited every single one of the parks that you all entrusted us to service. Aquatics. I don't have the aquatics coordinator here with me, but I did gather some information for you all. And just to give you an idea of what we're offering over at Cathedral City High School, which is the current pool that we are servicing out of, we have adaptive swim, and that is for individuals with special needs and or their families. Open swim, that is swim for anybody that wants to come and utilize the pool. Weekly sessions for ages 3 to 18. Water aerobics for the adults. Lifeguard training courses for anybody that wants to be employed with DRD. So we have actually hired residents, high school students, college students out of Cathedral City. Parent and Me for the 6-month-olds to the 4-year-olds, and senior splash classes, which are for the senior community, 62 and over. And one of the biggest assets that I'd like to mention is we're very thankful that we were entrusted to handle the Esperanza Rising Grant, which is a California-sponsored grant. This is unrelated to the budget, the regular budget here. We have a series, I see most of you here today have attended at least one of our events, and thank you so much for the attendance. We really appreciate that you've entrusted us with this handling of the grant. The first was over in April. The first series, it's 4 series. The first session was in April, May. We took a break in the summertime because nobody would come to our workshops then. But we are actually reigniting September 12th and October 10th, same time, 9 to 12. And the whole idea is to get the residents out, to give them a moment of opportunity, igniting that Esperanza Park. I know the CV Link is adjacent to that beautiful park, and the residents have demonstrated that, you know, we are in conjunction to what they wanted to see that park doing, and we're hoping to continue that opportunity. And with that being said, in addition to the Esperanza grant, we are also hosting soccer opportunities, so any athletic, fitness. Again, we hired specifically for the city of Cathedral City, and actually, again, some of those team members are actual residents of Cathedral City, so they take their jobs very, very seriously and dear to their heart. Park safety, so again, since we've entered the opportunity to service you all, the park safety team is attending all of the homelessness task force meetings, and they, you know, meet with myself and my team to discuss anything that was mentioned, any needs, any repairs, park conditions, and we communicate with police, fire, and et cetera, as to opportunities where we can best service our community. So know that we're out there, and park safety is our number one standard at the district. Matter of fact, I personally co-lead the safety committee for Desert Recreation District, and we oversee 450 employees. So please trust that I know a thing or two about safety as well within the district. And engagement approach, again, we take opportunities such as the upcoming backpack giveaway. I know behind me is the fire staff. We're in discussion with their staff members regarding a paint with the firefighter night in August. We use opportunities like that to engage with our residents, to ask them questions, to hear their feedback, whether good or bad. Any sort of city-led event, you would probably have seen us there before. And the last thing that I want to mention is, I know that it was really much highlighted to keep registration and program information simple and accessible. Just to name, every single one of my team members carries iPads with them, and that is to make, you know, their registration as simple and as easy as possible, especially for the residents that don't have access to electronics ready at hand. And I'm still going, okay. All right, and again, just re-highlighting everything I've already mentioned. Splash Bash was a hit. What the residents are gaining by seeing us out there in your parks, or hopefully in the community center at some point, is community. It is preparing them for new generations. Again, some of the moms in the strolling with me opportunities that we brought over at Esperanza Park said, I don't have a car, I don't travel, and this is very important to me, or I'm new in the neighborhood, I don't know any other moms. So it's engaging parents to connect with one another. My team, the majority of my team is Spanish speaking, so they feel very comfortable in approaching my staff and asking them questions, and my questions respond in Spanish, and the residents feel very much heard. Being with DRD, all of our residents receive the resident rate. They have access to all things fitness, sports, aquatics, you name it, as listed on there. And the residents are seeing something that they've never seen before, and that is a full-on recreation department within their vicinity. And I think that justifies what I wanted to speak to you today. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. City Manager. I'm here to kind of talk to you about the timeline, as the city manager indicated, where this is the first of many discussions we plan to have with staff and the city council. Today, I do have a board meeting, and we will be adopting our 2026-2027 budget with a $6.3 million deficit. That being said, staff is going to recommend moving forward with a parcel tax district-wide on November 3rd, and we're going to adopt the resolutions and ordinances required by state law to the county Office of Register of Voters to place that on the ballot. We have to submit all that paperwork by August 7th for it to be placed on the ballot, and then on August 12th, I plan to return to you all with the guidance of your city manager to talk to you about financing and the options that my board has adopted. And obviously, November 3rd is election day, and December 9th will be when our DRD board certifies the election results. That being said, we do enjoy this partnership with our staff, really enjoys working with your team. We love serving the community of Cathedral City, and hopefully we can work on a long-term agreement where that happens. So we do appreciate the opportunity, so thank you very much. I think that was the end of our slide, so if you have any questions on programming, please let us know.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Anna, for that. Do we have any questions from council? I see Councilmember Gordon is in the queue.
Thank you. I have been to a number of your events, including the Splash Bash, which was, I think, really very cool. It was great to see the kids. It was hot, and everybody, the firefighters, were very good sports. Very wet, very good sports. I see your social media, and obviously we get the booklet in the mail, but I'm curious what other kinds of external engagement you're doing to make sure that our residents are aware of all this great programming, and that, we have the numbers, but that they continue to grow and we continue to have great participation across all of this programming.
Well, I'll let Anna jump on this as well too, but the one thing we do highlight is every Tuesday we're on KESQ, and as you can see one of those slides, we had the Mr. Mayor with us.
Who's that guy?
We were just making sure you weren't wearing the same shirt today as you were on KESQ, so you're good. So we do that, and we do a lot of interactions with our communities, all our community centers. We co-promote at each one of our centers. So, you may see, Cathedral City advertisements at Thousand Palms and Indio and Palm Desert. So we're constantly, as California's largest park and recreation district, 1,887 square miles, we want to make sure that we're not only branding, or we're not only pushing for Cathedral City in Cathedral City, but at North Shore, we're pushing for Cathedral City because we want to expose other residents to community parties across the whole valley, and vice versa. That's the one thing we do is we have outdoor programs where we take residents to different areas of the Coachella Valley, or we take them to coastal encounters across California. So you get we have radio mentions. We're on multiple radio stations out here, multiple TV. We're in Spanish, publications, newspaper. So when it comes down to it, you'll see a lot of the stuff that we're engaging on Cathedral City, and then I'll let Anna kind of highlight the rest of them.
Can you also, sorry, just to add to that, how you're specifically reaching our Spanish-speaking population? I know you've got Spanish-speaking staff on site, but how are we reaching them sort of more broadly?
Yeah, so we do have, we're on Spanish radio, we have Spanish TV, and then we have a really great relationship with our Spanish community newspaper like El Informador, and not only are we using those media outlets and whether we're posting stuff on our social media in English and Spanish, but also it's that community programs with our senior centers. You know, we have that, I think we're one of the only programs that actually really highlight the cultural differences or the cultural value of the community with examples like programs like our Ballet Folklorico, which feature in Anna has 1,000 Palms been running that program, but you see a lot of kids from, what would you say, 5, 6 years old all the way to
3 to 85.
3 to 85, you know? And so we're highlighting those communities. We're not only trying to advertise them, but every day behind the scenes, we're actually working with those communities. We're deep in the trenches, and Anna could speak a little bit more on that.
Yeah, well, I think Scott did a good job at highlighting all of the different points. And one thing I'd like to lastly add is that our activity guide is also printed in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking community.
Great, thank you. I have one other question. On the parcel tax, how much are you counting on that, and what happens if it doesn't pass?
Those are questions I would answer at the August 17th
Okay.
meeting because my board has not given me
it.
directions and we present various options to them at the meeting early on today. But per our staff report, we are recommending a 5 cent per square foot tax with no escalator. That also includes increasing our appropriation limits, and there are going to be exceptions like low-income seniors. So that is going to be staff recommendation, but there are different options that the board can consider on that staff report as well.
Got it, thank you.
And right now, as we develop the scope for the new service agreement, if you want to see something specific in regards to community engagement, like surveys or workshops, please let your staff know, then we can incorporate that into the agreement as well.
Excellent. And I know you're going to cover that, but since we're not in the district, that vote wouldn't apply to us or the parcel tax, at least not for now. Anyway.
Correct, sir.
Thank you. All right, anything else? All right, next up in the queue is Councilmember Lamb.
And thank you for your presentation. And one of you had mentioned, and I can't remember now, but you talked about the potential arrangement with the Salvation Army site. So what do you see as, a goal? What is your objective with that in terms of facility or programming, or
Our
how do
goal-
you see that?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Lamb. Our goal is to be allowed the rights to fully operate out of their campus, is to be allowed access to their gymnasium, their classrooms, and come in agreement, I would say as far as operating when the Salvation Army staff members are not present, which is the weekends, which is a big need for our community. And I'll sample that over to the senior center, which currently has us as one of the key holders, so we're able to access their building even when their admin staff is not there. So the
Okay.
goal is to be admitted over and be provide the access to their amenities so we can fully operate
I see.
out of their location.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Add on to that. So one thing we're doing with the Salvation Army too is the district has adopted basically a veterans division for all veterans across the entire Coachella Valley. So we've been working hand in hand with the Salvation Army's VEP program, their veterans program, which they house right here in Cathedral City. So we want to make sure we're highlighting them, we're getting them exposure across other areas, because one thing that they communicated with us is that they want to expand, they want to do more for their community members, and then do a larger reach. So that's one thing that we're providing for businesses in Cathedral City, is that also that other option to work with them directly and be that asset of building other networks and connecting them, and especially with our veterans program, which we have a lot of veterans that are underserved in this community, is Desert Recreation District is really taking the initiatives to address that, find out what we need to do. We had a veterans town hall where basically we opened up the floor and just said, okay, we got you in the room. This is not a presentation, this is a discussion. What do you want from us? And we had some amazing response. And some of that response led to even veteran signs, veterans free parking signs in our sites. And we're moving forward, and that's directly driven from veterans. And that's how we work with the Salvation Army veterans with their program. And it's just one of those to where how can we enhance and be that asset to different organizations. So that's one thing we're working with them on as well. too.
So is that the same veterans with Bill Hayes? Is that
Yes.
okay?
So I'm working
yeah.
directly with
Oh,
Bill and
all right.
really supporting him on all his assets and what they need to do. And Also with the veterans, they're working on a new Veterans Expo, which we're kind of working on behind the scenes right now to move that forward.
Because they had that for years, and then,
Yes.
and then last year it went to Indio, the
And then
fairgrounds, and then,
We're looking for a bigger venue, and that venue right now is, we're just in talks of the Riverside County Day
Fairground.
Festival, the fairgrounds.
Fairground, okay.
And just to bring it back to where it's a big valley-wide, just amazing highlight of our veterans and services.
okay, great. Thanks for the clarification.
All right, next up is Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on the excellent program that you guys do. I've attended several of your events, and they are absolutely wonderful. From the setup to the engagement, you guys do an unbelievable job. And my first question is mainly for city staff. Now, as I recall, it's a clarification type of question. As I recall in the past, Patriot Park used to be maintained by Field of Dreams. Is that correct? Or did I
Yes.
lose someone there? Because I heard that it's being taken care of by.
So with one of the parks, and I believe it is Patriot Park, so we go over there and we service stuff like we still do a service, but on a much lighter level. And then that will be, I believe it was services of like the fire pits or trash, to that extent. But it's not one of those parks, and, I could get more clarification that to you. And then,
It's a different question that he's asking. So I'm not, and I'm going to look at John Corella if he has any knowledge. I'm not sure what the relationship has been with the Field of Dreams, or not Field of Dreams, but Big League Dreams
Big League
maintaining
Dreams.
the park. I think city staff have been maintaining it, and up until the point that we've had DRD come on. And so now DRD has taken over some of those basic responsibilities of particularly the gazebo areas and cleaning up trash and making sure that those are
So
clean.
this might actually be a Kevin Biersack question too, because I thought it was part of their lease or their agreement that they did the lawn maintenance there. So can somebody just clarify that and if that's changed?
Yes, sir. The Big League Dreams folks take care of the park itself and what's immediately around it. But tied to Patriot Park, the Public Works people still maintain that. And the addendum that the Assistant City Manager did when we entered this arrangement was for like the trash tied to the gazebo, what she mentioned previously. So as Scott said, of the 6 parks, there's 5 primary parks that you all do. And Patriot Park is a little bit.
All right, they do some supplemental work, but the Big League Dreams remains responsible for the lawn maintenance and other.
Yes, but and then Public Works does where that cuts off and it becomes Patriot Park.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Now, one of my residents in the Dream Homes area has contacted me that there is an issue watering in the soccer field, that there could be overwatering in a certain section. And in that particular section, of course, when there's overwatering, that the grass dies around that area. Is there an issue, or do the sprinklers need to be replaced, relocated, or?
And that's one thing that I'll get some clarification, and I'll work with Ann and Andy on providing that information. But I know the one things with our Public Works Department is they understand each park is completely different, and we've had this conversation on multiple levels with them to where how much you can water it, how much you can't. So you'll see a fluctuation of parks and at different times because it's the shading of the trees, the location, the usage of the field. But if there's anything that's, let's say, then in need of addressing for like if there's exposure to water, a lot of times is once the district is contacted, then instantly that day or the next day, we have a team out there assessing it. So what we could do is find out information. One example is we had a veterans member contacted us and let us know there was a flag that was completely ripped. And he was talking it about there. It's up for about a couple days, 3 or 4 days. And once we found out, our team had that flag switched out within, and it was funny, it was 1 hour and like 37 minutes. I actually timed it because I was amazed when our team called us and said, it's done. the flag was changed and it was up. So when we see something, we address it. I'll find out about that park, and then we'll make it our priority to get with the staff and address it and to give you guys a report on what we find out.
Thank you. My next question is, now you're in the process of negotiating with the Salvation Army for the use of the facilities. Now, in the meantime, have you ever contacted or reached out to the Cathedral City Boys and Girls Club, possibly for some kind of association with them?
I don't have that information with me today, Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez, so I do apologize. However, because the Boys and Girls Club does do a lot of the services that we already offer, we don't necessarily like to compete with with other organizations. So again, I can come back with that information for you. I don't have that information with me. But the Salvation Army was the reason why we sought that campus out was because they were currently programming at a very minimal number, and we were hoping to bring that number grand and bring some leagues over that they were not currently doing.
Okay.
And Mayor Pro Tem, to add on to what Anna has said, I was at a meeting early on with that, and it was something that identified by some of the staff at the Salvation Army of they do certain programming geared towards certain age groups. They identified that I think youth was one of the areas that they weren't really reaching out to as much. And so that was sort of the beginning of the conversation of how could DRD come in and help. I think where they've been in the negotiation process is the costs of operating the gym and who's going to pay for those. And so that's where I think it's still in negotiations. But they have a full community center there. So they have multi-purpose rooms, they have classroom rooms, they have a full gymnasium that is able to be programmed. And so I appreciate DRD's tenacity working with Salvation Army to try to find a path where they can, and especially since we don't have a full-time center yet, to utilize an existing community center to provide some of that programming, the general programming to the community.
Yes, it's a great location, so that's a great location. I did talk to the director of the Boys and Girls Club, and sometimes he said he would truly appreciate it if you guys would reach out to him, because of course, they also mentioned that they don't want to actually provide the same services or come into competition with you, but possibly work on some kind of partnership with them. They also have services which they might not be offered to what you offer or to the type of people that you offered. So maybe you can contact them and see what services can be offered that they don't have.
Will do. Thank you for the information. I'll take it back to my team.
Well, thank you.
So much.
And when it comes to promoting, a lot of the questions or great questions were already asked by our council member here. Now, do you have any relationship with the Spanish radio station 96.7, maybe a day or two before the event, that they can advertise in the morning? Because they have a huge audience.
La Poderosa.
Yes.
96, that would be more of
Yeah.
Scott's realm.
So we do. We have constant communication with each one. Now, we do have a marketing team that actually has a schedule. So they buy on, local Spanish. They buy on some of our English-speaking stations. But what I do is we send all our press releases out for every one of our major events, including all your events, to our Spanish media groups. And that's even the ones we don't have a media package buy on. But what we do is invite them, and we invite them to engage. And a lot of times we'll get some great positive replies, but it's up to them if they want to come out. But we do have a lot of our English speaking, and then of course our Spanish newspaper that basically covers everything we do. But we could work on that a little more to get them out there, because I agree with you, with their reach in the market and their Spanish demographic, it's key that we really try to, build that relationship. So what we could do is move forward, is really get them involved. And I'll also work with Ryan and your guys' team to really include, to see what we could do, and maybe even offer them some, set up some interview junkets for them in the morning with, council or staff to really put that on a highlight.
You beat me to that question. That was my next question. My final question is, of course, your parcel tax will not affect the residents of Cathedral City for now, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, for the rest of the county that is in the DRD programming, what will be the percentage in order for this to pass, this measure to pass?
Since it's a specialized tax and, cities have the luxury to pass sales tax, which is a majority, 50 plus one, this is a specialized tax, so we have to adhere to the supermajority, 2/3, so it'll be 67%.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
And then just to add on to your, the partnerships is, the one thing we've done to add on this to look for other organizations is right when we came in, we actually built a partnership with Mary Pickford Theater right down the street. And we're actually programming in, and her team is actually using that multi-room space on the top. We have a great relationship with Ted over there. And we said, all right, why don't we set some stuff up there? So currently we are doing programming. We've actually talked with them where we could do some parent, nights to where there's junkets of where you can actually, parents could bring their kids, they could drop them off with DRD, and then they could enjoy a movie. And that's in collaboration with Mary Pickford Theater. And we have a lot of special activities at places like Mary Pickford Theater. So we're constantly looking for other avenues to explore and partnerships that could cost, we're not sharing this cost. It's, Mary Pickford Theater actually lets us use this absolutely free, and it's a partnership, and on our end, we help promote them and help provide a service to the community. And right now, we're in talks with a staff member and the principal for Cathedral City High School about the possibilities of DRD using one of their rooms, their gymnasium, and same thing in partnership when they have like their senior days, then the parents that have to bring their younger kids to these senior days can actually drop off their younger kids with Desert Recreation District in the gym while they attend to their seniors and actually have that, direct, communication. They could take it all in without worrying about their little one running around. So it seems like the Palm Springs or the Cathedral City Unified School District is on board. We're going to do conversations, and we'll keep you guys updated, and hopefully have a multi-purpose room we're using at the school.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. As you can see, there's great interest in what's going on. It's funny you talk about maintenance. Maintenance is always going to be a thing when you have physical facilities, especially parks and things that are outdoors. So, but I have, as you have said, I have found a DRD to be quite responsive. If people have the Cathedral City app, there is a parks selection there on the requests, and if you articulate your requests, so if you get those requests and they don't do it, because I have people, although I have taught them to use the app over and over again, they will send me their photos and their description of something that they want to send forward, which I then go right on the app and put it on there. And yes, it has been very responsive. But it is some of the same issues we had. You have dry spots, you have wet spots. It'll be fine for a while. Something will glitch, So it is something that it's good. But I have found them very responsive. The feedback I get is no disrespect to our prior level of service, but people are quite impressed overall with the condition of the parks and facilities. They do find that your staff that is there is friendly and responsive. They do find that when there is something that needs to be fixed, that it is a very reasonable period of time. There's even proactive things. I know there's been a slide replaced in Panorama here recently, that type of thing. So they are feeling, besides the fact that things are getting maybe noticed and then repaired a little quicker, they're feeling also confidence is what I'm hearing from people, that when they come to the park, they're not going to be the one to have to report all the time that, there are things that need to be addressed. Besides that, of course, the programming is very much appreciated and hearing lots of good things. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you for coming. We would like to have these about quarterly. They don't have to be onerous. They don't have to talk about finances quarterly. You can talk with staff about that, and we can deal with that at different. But I know that although I was aware of a lot of the programming going on, I saw a few things in here I wasn't really aware of or that you mentioned. So it's human nature. If we don't hear about it, we assume it's not happening, right? So it's great that when you come, you talk about what you've been doing, what you have planned, and then it gives us also an opportunity to share any trends or issues that we may have. So thank you so much. We hope to see you again in about 3 months, hopefully.
And then
And we'll see you Dr. Martin here sooner than that.
And then we'll be sure to drop our new activity guide, comes out in September, and we'll be sure to drop off a whole bunch of copies to you guys because Cathedral City is heavily featured in that issue.
Excellent. All right, thank you so much. If there's nothing else, are there any public comments on this item?
Mayor, I did not receive any request to speak forms. Any members on Zoom, please raise your hand. Appears we have none.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank you, guys.
and we will see you again soon. All right, moving on with our study section. Our next item is item 2B, consideration of Assembly Bill 1775, which deals with cannabis cafes and other updates to the city's cannabis ordinances. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Justin Gardner is here this afternoon to give council a presentation not only on cannabis cafes, but to share some other cleanup items to our ordinance. When council adopted updates to the cannabis regulations last year, we indicated that there would be other changes, and the presentation this afternoon outlines many other administrative changes and cleanup to close gaps that we have in the code. So with that, I'll turn this over to Justin.
Which one is it?
Say 1775 on it, right there.
There it is. Apologies for the delay.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, good to see you all again. My name is Justin Gardner, your friendly neighborhood code compliance manager. Today I'm presenting a study session on cannabis ordinance amendments for Chapter 3.48 and Chapter 5.88, with emphasis on AB 1775, allowing cannabis lounges to have ticketed and non-ticketed events. So the recommendation is for council to receive this study session and provide direction back to staff to prepare a future ordinance to amend Chapter 3.48 and 588, which will then allow licensed cannabis consumption lounges to host indoor ticketed and non-ticketed events, host live entertainment, as well as host lounge activities within their approved footprint. A little bit of background on AB 1775. This expands what activities a local jurisdiction may authorize licensed cannabis lounges to conduct on premise. This 1775 was not a by right bill at the state level. Essentially, the state said that they recognize certain activities to be okay so long as the local jurisdiction blessed off on it as well. So under 1775, licensed cannabis retailers may prepare or sell non-cannabis food items and beverages, host live and ticketed events and non-ticketed events like musical performances, puff and paint, yoga, movie night, barbecues, anything to attract more customers, obviously with approval from the local jurisdiction. And licensed retailers must still adhere to all applicable state and local jurisdiction requirements. So if adopted, AB 1775 would allow for Cathedral City to authorize the preparation of sale of non-food cannabis items and beverages subject to California Retail Food Code and other applicable requirements, meaning that these lounges will still have to abide by all of the regulatory requirements from Riverside County Health, Riverside and County Environmental Health. They'd still have to get all of their food handler permits and all of the other certifications through those organizations to be allowed to sell these products. Live musical or other performances on the licensed premise in the area where cannabis consumption is allowed, basically the lounge area. Adopting 1775 does not then wipe out any other, or it does not supersede or wipe out any other requirements that are already there. So a lot of the left and right lateral limits, the controls, if you will, are already in place. So occupancy limits. If a lounge decides to host an event, let's say they bring in a DJ or a live band and the occupancy is 50, the occupancy is still 50, well, minus the band members, right? Because those are going to count towards the occupancy. So adopting 1775 would not then supersede any other rule that we already have on the books. Sale of tickets or performances, events, and continued on-site cannabis consumption, provided all state and local requirements are still met. Staff actually had an opportunity to explore this in depth. The city of West Hollywood is touted as one of the leaders in their cannabis lounges. Staff had an opportunity to go down and visit both with the lounge operators as well as City of West Hollywood co-compliance manager and staff and talk to them on both sides of this issue. It was a very informative and very eye-opening trip and educational journey, and pretty cool stuff that they have going on out there. So indoor events, ticket sales, live entertainment would be required to comply with all approved occupancy limits, all of the pre-approved fire and life safety requirements, any existing business license and cannabis permit conditions through CUPs, approved hours of operation. Again, adoption of 1775 would not then supersede. So if we say cannabis lounges shall be closed at 9 p.m., they still shall be closed at 9 p.m. Odor control and ventilation requirements will still be in place. Noise regulations will still be in place. And then nothing that comes with the allowance of 1775 could impact parking requirements or allow things like loitering to happen. Food and beverage service may be permitted, but ordinance should make clear that they cannot be commingled. They have to be separate products. Alcohol and tobacco is still not allowed on premise or consumed anywhere in or near cannabis. Cannabis products and food beverage, commingled, already said that. Any food preparation must obtain required approval from Riverside County Health. And prepackaged food, non-alcoholic beverages, and food delivery services may be allowed if otherwise compliant. So if a lounge would like to use a local restaurant to cater an event, they can do that. With adoption of 1775, they would be allowed to do that. If they would like to bring in something bigger than that, say a food truck, which now it's going to be a food truck on private property, we still have our pilot program available for that, and that would just trigger other permit processes that we already have in place.
So a food truck would be outdoor. We're not authorizing that
Consumption
the
outdoors.
consumption would be outdoors. So if a food truck were there, they wouldn't be able to set up a picnic table outside. You know, the food truck, sometimes they do that when they go. But this is not, intent is that they would not be able to do that and then allow the consumption outside.
Correct. This slide gets right on that. Staff does not support outdoor cannabis consumption as part of this ordinance. Staff is not looking at recommending that whatsoever. All consumption of all cannabis products at this point, we recommend to be inside the lounge area. If they do have an event that is in their footprint, let's say they do bring a food truck or they go through a special use permit, they want to do something a little bit bigger than something simply inside, we're looking at allowing that. However, still no consumption. That's the all stop that we have on this at this time. Outdoor areas include but are not limited to parking lots, patios, sidewalk, outdoor seating areas, and any other temporary event areas. In this also, and in our draft ordinance that was supplied to the council, Finance identified a need to better align Chapter 3.48 as well as Chapter 5.88 to local licensing requirements. And that includes a lot of just clarifying language, clarifying that all cannabis business must timely file required tax returns, clarifying that tax returns are required even when no taxes are owed, requiring licenses seeking renewal, transfer, or modification to demonstrate that cannabis taxes, penalties, and interest have been paid in full, and clarifying how gross receipts and taxable activity are reported so finance can administer the cannabis tax consistently across dispensaries, cultivation, manufacturing, and all of the other business types. We're also proposing some legal revisions. This was in connection with BWS. We reviewed all of the language in 5.88, and we had some clarifying language as well in here in this draft ordinance, clarifying ownership, management, the grounds for denial or revocation of a cannabis license, clarifying the denial versus revocation process, and consolidate an appeals track, and then general cleanup and corrections, to better align the ordinance and our local rules with adoption of 1775. Also, the Planning Division will conduct a study to potential need for post-adoption amendment to the condition use permit process. All cannabis uses currently require a CUP. An amendment can include other approved uses as part of an existing discretionary permits, and this is for looking at things that would go outside of the four walls but still within their footprint. So not exceeding out into the parking lot or out into the sidewalks or other areas, but let's say if a lounge has a small back patio area, would they necessarily need to come in every time to get a special use permit to, say, put a barbecue in that area for a one-day event? So we're looking at how we can explore amendments to possibly correct that language as well. Fiscal impact and enforcement, there is no direct fiscal impact for any of these municipal code updates. If adopted, enforcement would continue through existing tools, how we have. We would continue our both scheduled and unscheduled inspections. The city would retain authority to take enforcement action if a lounge event creates a nuisance or violates the municipal code, state cannabis law, or operates outside of the scope of what has been previously approved under their CUP. The implementation of 1775 and the amendments to this chapter will be heard by the Cannabis Task Force first, and then it will be returned to the council for review. These amendments are consistent with Goal F of the City Council goals and objectives by supporting local business retention and responsible economic development. Staff, at least on the code side, is very supportive of adoption of 1775 as proposed in our ordinance. Again, we went down to the city of West Hollywood and examined how they were doing things, and we don't see any serious impact by adopting this. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation. Is anyone on city council? I saw you clicking, but you're not showing up in the queue. I think you might have clicked on a different item, but that's all right. Mayor Pro Tem, you can go first.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. My first question is, now, retailer meaning is the same thing as a dispensary, correct?
In this instance, for AB 1775, it would be a dispensary / lounge. So this applies to the lounges, the consumption areas.
Okay, so how many lounges do we have currently in our city?
Currently, I believe we have 3, but we have several others permitted that are just not operational.
So are our lounges, are they dispensaries or are they just strictly lounges?
They are dispensary / lounge. So they have a dispensary portion, and then attached to that would be the consumption lounge.
So will the dispensaries be allowed, or do they have to apply for a different permit to become a lounge? Therefore, they will be allowed to have all these events?
I believe that if it's permitted as a dispensary only, then this wouldn't qualify for them to have events. This is in connection with consumption lounges.
Okay, got it. Now, since there will be live entertainment possibly in these lounges, now, some of these entertainers or places of entertainment do have a stage. Do they have to be permitted in order to have a stage?
I'm not entirely sure.
So if any of these lounges were to propose a stage, they likely would need to go through a building permit process to construct that and ensure that is compliant with our building code regulations.
Okay.
And
thank
that
you.
could affect things like occupancy since it would take up a space.
That is correct, yes.
Now, my next question is, will the employees be trained to notice when somebody has consumed a little more cannabis than they should?
I do believe that that's part of the requirement from the state down with responsible sales, that they would have to recognize that, similar to how a bartender is supposed to recognize if someone's had too much to drink.
And just a question, I don't expect you to know this one, but sometimes with alcohol, servers need to take a certain course and actually be permitted to serve alcohol and to notice when somebody has consumed a little too much. And if the individual tries to drive, by law, they have to stop them and not drive or do whatever they can to either not drive or call the police, pretty much. Call a cab or call the police, one or the other. Do you know if this will apply in this situation?
At this time, I do not know if there is a state mandated training or if there is any particular training. I'm unaware at this time.
Okay. And now, currently, we do have an ordinance that states that dispensaries cannot be within 250 feet of any residence. Will this apply for lounges that want to actually take advantage of AB 1775? Because if they fall within 250 feet, we don't allow dispensaries. For instance, we have the one that is located right across from what the former Burlington building is. Now, that one is within 250 feet from a residence. Will that one be allowed? Will that fit into all this? Will that change anything?
It would not. So this would allow, for that particular location, to my understanding, that they were there already prior to the update to the cannabis ordinance. Adopting 1775 would simply allow them to have hosted ticketed and non-ticketed events within the four walls of their business. So if they wanted to do a yoga night or a movie night, they could advertise that, they could sell tickets to that and attract business that way.
And lastly, a great question that was asked by our mayor regarding food trucks. They could be allowed to park outside the business, come in and out, but no consumption in between.
Correct.
Now, the food truck, just make sure that they're licensed with our city.
100%. They would still have to go through the other pilot program that we have currently, the food truck pilot program, to operate on private property. And we highly encourage all of these local businesses to work with one another so that we can continue to prop each other up and drum up business for all of our local people.
And now what we're doing is we just have to vote on this and adopt this AB 1776 for our city. There's nothing we can really do to actually not allow it, correct? This is state law, and all it is a regulation.
So the local jurisdiction has the ability to either adopt or not adopt. So if the council chooses to not adopt 1775, that would mean that none of the things that the state is saying is allowed, it wouldn't supersede us. We get the final say on whether or not we're going to allow it or not.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you.
All right. What else?
Yeah.
Councilmember Gordon.
I have two questions. I think you addressed these, but I want to make sure I'm clear. One is this will not put an additional load on our code enforcement team,
We don't.
having these additional abilities?
We don't foresee it being any kind of more additional to what we're already doing. We can still take complaints, so if, let's say, an event is happening and then we get a citizen complaint because of some type of a disturbance with it or a nuisance with it, we can respond out to that and address it as needed. But as far as, more inspections in connection with the allowance of 1775, we don't foresee that happening.
So this doesn't really increase the workload because it's the same places, same licenses?
No, everything stays the same. This is simply allowing these businesses to try to attract more customers through sales of non-cannabis items or events that like-minded folks want to get together to do. So the city of West Hollywood, we had that same concern and the same questions both on the staff side as well as the operator side, and we had the same response from both sides that it really isn't an issue that caused anything. The only times that they really saw it was a few times a year for really big events that required people to stand out on the sidewalk in line to try to get into these buildings because they were still operating under the occupancy limits. So they had to wait for certain people to come out before others can come in. And then people standing in line on the sidewalk then caused a little bit of an issue. But short of that, they said they've never responded to any, they never had to respond to any kind of complaints.
Great. And then the second question actually sort of led into it a little bit. If there are special events, is there, I know you said this doesn't supersede anything that's already in our existing policies. Would this allow for a cannabis business to say, I know we're supposed to be closed by 9, can we get a special permit for 10 o'clock because we're doing X thing? Is there flexibility for additional special events or permits or other things that give them the opportunity to take advantage of sort of existing code?
Through the adoption of AB 1775, no. That's a completely separate issue that would have to be brought back for other modifications, I believe, in the code.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lamb.
Great, and then thank you for the presentation, clarify. I had one question, I have two actually, but the first one is, and it says here on page 2 that, and addressing employee exposure to secondhand cannabis smoke. So that's an issue under the state law. So let's say an employee had a concern about that, and it's a state law, so that is between the employee and the proprietor, not the city.
Not the city.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And the second thing, has the our cannabis task force, have they been involved in this along the way? Or are they just going to be, they're the next step?
They're the next step. So at
Okay.
this point, staff has went and did all of the legwork as far as the exploring, the contacting other industry professionals, other operators, bringing back the information, putting together the draft ordinance, and at this time, we're going to reach out to the task force for their input on the draft ordinance.
Okay, thank you so much.
To add to that, with council's direction tonight, I would be looking to convene the Cannabis Task Force in the next month or so. I just appointed 3 new members to the Cannabis Task Force, and I imagine this will be 1 or 2 meetings of the Cannabis Task Force to step through the drafts, not just on cannabis cafes and AB 1775, but the other provisions in this. And then we would look to bring it back to council for first and second reading.
Thank you. Because the Cannabis Task Force has been active and influential this whole time, so that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just pointing out everybody's requesting to speak, but they're on the wrong item, so it's not coming up. Oh, no, you just. All right, my turn. Thank you so much. So the couple of interesting things that are, I'm, just trying to wrap my head around. One of them is bringing outside food and drink. That is not typically seen in bars, but you see it. It's allowed here. So, but I could see, especially the ones that don't set up their own restaurant inside there, why that would be interesting. And it kind of leads into the idea of the commingled. And I know that, and CV Can's here, so I won't speak to him, but they had raised some issues about commingling. And so I think rightly the proposal is that the business would not be able to commingle, but it is kind of mute in the proposal about, well, would commingling occur in the lounge? So does staff have a stance on why it's not really addressed in the proposed ordinance? And I would be curious as to what you saw in normal practice when you visited West Hollywood.
Sure. So I think the purpose behind the not commingled is because the sale of cannabis is regulated and it's labeled, and a consumer is knowing how much and what they're getting, what strain, how strong, those things. I think commingle in this instance is selling prepared food that has cannabis in it. So I couldn't go back in the back, make some homemade brownies with cannabis in it, and then provide them or sell them to the customers. What we did see in practice in West Hollywood, however, in one particular dispensary lounge, was they would sell mocktails, non-alcoholic drinks that had fancy names and came out in really colorful presentations and cups. And then you could also buy on the side a liquid cannabis product. And then you as the consumer could then pour that in and mix it into the drink, and now you have a cannabis-infused mocktail.
Or theoretically, they could bring their own non-alcoholic beverage in and then just buy.
And buy the vials.
So the intent isn't that there would be no consumption of commingled items, but it would be that the business is not actually doing the commingling. It would be up to the actual consumer that would do that.
Correct. That the business is not providing commingled products.
Right.
that
And
are
I understand what
properly
you're
labeled.
saying, because I mean, you may be able to buy brownies after, but they would have gone to the lab to be tested and all this kind of stuff. So,
Correct.
so the intent would be that it wouldn't be prepared there. So do we anticipate that some of these lounges might actually open what we might call a restaurant inside of there?
No, because they are still bound by all of the other rules and regulations and their conditional use permits for those building types, the sizes, so on and so forth. They'd still have to go through all of the processes through environmental health to get any type of food service permit.
But they would be allowed to do that here. They would be allowed to get if they decided they wanted to actually prepare burgers or something, that they could go through that. They would have to go through the whole process, but they theoretically could then and open a grill, a bar and grill, but not a bar part, but a grill in there type of a thing.
Theoretically, I think what we're looking at, or what the lounges have related to us, what they're looking at more is just the ability to sell prepackaged foods, cans of Coke.
I've got
bags
you
of
there, but the
juice.
code would allow that type of thing. Again, dependent on space probably, and then having to go through the environmental. But so there would be a process there that they would have to go through, not just with environmental health, but also with the city.
Correct.
All right. And so if they were to do that, would there be any change in the fact that minors would not be allowed in there, even if they did serve food as a quote unquote restaurant or that type of thing? It would still be prohibited by, we're confident that, and does the state law?
Yeah, there would be no wiggle room for that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the question is based kind of like the difference between a bar/bar grill, where a bar grill, you can have minors, in a bar, you have to be 21. I think in this instance, that would still not apply. It would be 21 plus, all stop.
All right, good. Okay. I don't know if I buy that. I mean, hopefully, if this goes forward, some of these operations become popular. So I don't know if I would buy there's no additional workload, because whenever you have, every time we open something that has a lot of, I'll say, regulations, or at least certain requirements that would be met, I could see code might have a little bit more, or even fire if it comes to capacity, those types of things. I do think we have an item later in tonight's agenda that might address that because of some additional staffing that might be available. So I'm not going to harp on that, but I do think there's a potential for some additional workload.
There could be.
All right, let me change gears. I'm going to get away from the consumption at lounges and get to the other minor corrections. So we did have some debate earlier in an earlier meeting about what makes a dispensary an operating dispensary or not. And so some of that boiled down at the end to a very technical interpretation of what a month was, because of the way that the ordinance, I guess, is currently even still worded. I did see corrections in here defining the month being the prior 30 days. It doesn't say a month anymore, it says the prior 30 days. So that's good. But I think in that discussion, there was also, besides the financial part, the filing of the tax form, there was also some evidence presented that one might say common sense-wise would tell us that a dispensary is not operating. Things like they don't have operating hours, they don't have inventory, they don't have any signage, permanent signage, or, other than maybe a paper taped on the door or something like that. And I thought we were going to try to put a little effort into maybe adding some things that then if we did get faced with this again, where somebody was saying, well, no, I want to hold on to my license because it is an operating dispensary, I just didn't make any sales, or I made $15 worth of sales or something, type of a thing. But when code went, there was no inventory, there was, those types of things. I thought we were going to try to include some items that might be evidence of operating or not. So if we were faced with that again, there would be something in the ordinance that then we could gather evidence on that wouldn't just be circumstantial, which is kind of what ended up happening there. It wasn't necessarily proof because it wasn't in the ordinance that you had to have inventory or operating hours or these types of things. Is that something we could look at?
So, Mayor, I'll take that one. And yes, this is a working draft, and I think we've had additional staff discussions since the agenda packet was published. We've made a step in the right direction. There's clearly a need to add to this language, to add some additional clarification. So we'll continue to work on that to those points specifically as we progress through the Cannabis Task Force and bring this back to council.
Okay, I think that would be wise, and because I know that was, it kind of bogged down last time because it was all about the tax forms when, there is more than just the tax forms when it comes to operating a business. So, all right. That was the last of mine, but I hear Mayor Pro Tem has more questions.
Yes, a few more. Now, police officers are allowed to visit live entertainment businesses, for instance, nightclubs. Will they be allowed to visit at any given time whenever these events are occurring?
So with our ordinance in our city, it's written into the code that we have by right visitation anytime to any cannabis industry.
And
So
just,
cultivators, dispensaries, lounges, manufacturers, the labs, we're able to conduct scheduled and unscheduled inspections anytime.
great, that's one. Now, the occupancy of such businesses will not increase. They cannot have any more occupants than they're allowed
Correct.
at these events. Okay. Now, you did talk about the age of attendees must be 21 or over, right? And tell me a few reasons for revocation of their license. If they were to have what will be a reason to revoke, to have their license revoked?
Theoreticals are always hard.
Theoretical,
He's
yes.
asking-
In connection specifically to the adoption of 1775,
Yes.
I would say those would be, if we're going to go straight to revocation, those would have to be immediate life, health, safety issues. So 5 people over occupancy may not be an immediate life safety issue, but you add to that, it would have to present an immediate health and safety threat to go straight to the revocation.
So one of them will be immediately commingling of foods and cannabis.
Potentially. There's a lot of what-ifs in the, it's difficult for me to give you a black and white answer to that because there's a lot of
So, Mayor Pro Tem,
circumstantial stuff.
there's existing language in the municipal code on good cause, and that includes violating any terms, conditions, provisions of the city's code, state law. So there's many instances where we could find good cause, and we would use that to go through a revocation process to present the evidence and to make a recommendation for that revocation if that were the case.
Yeah, council members, I would also add, it depends on what we're revoking. Revoking a license is different than revoking a conditional use permit. A conditional use permit is a vested property right. We need to have a higher standard to revoke that than we need to revoke a license. We might try to revoke both of them at the same time, depending on the quantity, the duration, and the extent or extreme of the violations.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Council? All right, I see we do have speakers, so I'll turn it over to the city clerk.
Yes, Mayor, we do have a few, and I want to remind any members on Zoom, if you'd like to comment on this item, now would be the time to raise your hand. I'll call on you at the appropriate time. Our first speaker is Scott Rusick.
Welcome, Mr. Rezick.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Team Cathedral City. It's really nice to see everybody here. I'm super excited. This is my first study session, so I'm not exactly sure of the protocol. Great questions. First off, I'm going to kind of go off script here because it's silly. First off, I want to thank staff for the hard work they've done in getting us to this, collectively to this place. I also want to thank, on behalf of CVCAN, each of you, as well as Councilmember Ross, for taking time to meet with us and talking about this. This is super exciting. I'll get into some specifics in a second, but for example, San Francisco just in the last 48 hours or so, I think, passed an ordinance adopting AB 1775. There are a small number, but growing number of cities that are taking this action. Palm Springs is currently reviewing it as well. So this, once again, shows that the council and staff of Cat City are very much in the forefront of the movement, and that's very much appreciated. This is a tremendous opportunity, and there is quite a bit of cachet to it. We took the time to put in specific observations and suggestions in a written statements because they're quite picayune as they dig into a couple of things. And I don't want to belabor that too much, but I do want to dig into the point raised by Mayor Gregory with respect to, and Councilman Gutierrez, Mayor Pro Tem, sorry, with respect to consumption. This commingling concept by the consumer versus the business is super important. This is a big area of profit margin. It's the whole concept of, you know, the consumer knows what they're buying or can ask questions about what they're buying from bud tenders who are experienced and whatnot. And it's really just a really important small tweak. And frankly, I think we could have left it alone without the suggestion that we made to put in by licensee. But at CVCAN, we're more interested in transparency and addressing issues before they come up. So as to create compliance issues later. The other area that I think is worth noting in our memo is the outdoor space. We are absolutely in agreement. No consumption outside, period, period, period. Not banging that drum. However, there are, speaking for CV Ken and its members, Atomic Buds Dispensary and Lounge, as well as a Double I Dispensary and Lounge. They do have unique sort of, and I don't want to use a legal term, but private sort of areas that are outside the four walls. What they're concerned about is for outdoor events having to go on a regular basis to get special use permits. And so we've talked with staff about that, and I think that's something that's worth digging into to try and save these guys some costs. Very quickly, because I'm going to run out of time, outside of the concept of this particular ordinance, oh, so close. We'd really like to revisit the ordinance for odor compliance with respect to lounges, dispensaries, and labs only. These folks are like tunas caught up in dolphins.
All right, thank you so much again for your comments, and thank you. I would encourage you to continue working with staff, and thank you for also your written input.
Thank you.
All right.
The next speaker is Kevin Lopez.
Hello, my name is Kevin Lopez. I'm Vice President for Coachella Valley Cannabis Alliance Network, and I operate Double I Dispensary and Lounge. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I just see that we strive for equality. We just want to, I, as an operator, want to understand that we're all going to be treated fairly, and we're all going to have the same availability as like what other larger lounges have. Again, every lounge is different. Every business has a different model. We don't sell. We just want to be able to continue helping our community. We want to continue doing what we're doing, and just focus on the availability not to be, I guess, ramified. You know, we're always trying to stay in compliance, and we want to make sure that we ensure that. And I'd like to also talk about what he was talking about, the ordinance for the odor. We already have a few things in place, and we're happy to comply, but we just want to maybe have some more assurance that we're going to be able to not be charged so much, I guess. It's a lot on us already. We're already being taxed, et cetera. But again, I want to just mainly say thank you for hearing us out and listening to us speak, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much.
The next speaker is Seth Burke.
Welcome, Mr. Burke.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you guys. Justin put on a fantastic presentation for us. We are definitely in support of this. It's just we need to move quickly. As you guys know, there are other areas that are allowing this to go on in their cities, and it's putting us at a competitive disadvantage of as to others. Other than that, I mean, I would agree with, we run our businesses differently, and so yes, there are certain things, but we want to all follow the rules. As Justin knows, we deal with them regularly on these things and just want to make sure that we're compliant. Thank you guys very much for taking this up.
Thank you so much. All right, are there anyone else here present that has a comment? All right, any online comments?
Mayor, I do not see any hands raised.
Are there any written comments?
I have none.
All right, there's nothing else. We'll go ahead and move on with our next presentation. I know we are looking at a cutoff here so that we have time for our closed session, but hopefully this one is not overly complicated.
Shouldn't be.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item is out of a council strategic plan from earlier this year, and Justin Gardner, our Code Compliance Manager, will be leading the presentation.
Yeah, I forgot to announce what it was, the Code Compliance Volunteer Program. But you all have your agenda, so you know. Thank you, Justin.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, it's been a long time. I don't know if I've lost more hair or grown more beard since the last time we've met.
I'd say more beard.
More beard, always more beard. Grave before shave. All right, the purpose of this is the Code Compliance Volunteer Program. We are proposing this to be labeled as the Community Engagement and Community Engagement and Enhancement Program. And it is designed to increase community engagement, enhance public awareness of the municipal standards, support neighborhood quality of life efforts, and invite non-enforcement volunteer participation into the division. The objectives are to increase community engagement and volunteerism. We want to continue what we've been doing for the last several years of changing the narrative of who and what Cathedral City Code Compliance is, who we are, what we do, still leading with education first, and seeking voluntary compliance. We want to enhance the public awareness of the municipal standards. A lot of the times out there when we talk to folks who have a violation, they did not know that it was a violation. Because the municipal code is not something most people go seek out and read right away. So continuing that public awareness and educating folks is what this is, the core value of this. Expand code compliance visibility at community events. We'd like to have the volunteers help us man booths at the Spooktacular or the Meatball Festival or the Doggy costume contests and all of those great community programs that we have. Support neighborhood quality of life through non-enforcement activities. This includes passing out flyers, educational stuff, answering questions, taking down yard sale signs or other illegal signs. And then build stronger partnerships between residents and the city government. Essentially be that liaison between enforcement action and education. Scope of activities, community outreach, staffing code compliance information booths, assisting with neighborhood outreach, and promoting city services and reporting tools, educating the public on the GoGov report writing system, how and what the City Detect program does, and assist us with bringing in more information. Community enhancement, removal of illegal signage that's posted up on in the road right-of-way on utility poles and street signs, verification of garage sale permits, posting courtesy notices with staff direction. They could help assist taking out some of the mundane work that ties up a lot of code's time by posting courtesy notices. And then documentation and reporting, conducting observation-only monitoring of vacant or abandoned buildings. This goes into a later date that we're going to bring back for abandoned buildings, but they could be a major asset in helping us maintain and monitor those properties to ensure that they're not being blighted. Submitting photographs and notes through our GoGov report writing system, and then also communicating with and reporting community citizen concerns. Partnered with staff, volunteers will spend time shadowing code compliance officers and assisting by conducting their own separate duties. And these duties are limited in scope, and they will have a clearly defined role. Volunteers will not wear a uniform similar to code officers or present themselves as such. They will be clearly labeled as community volunteers, the community education and enhancement volunteers. Training and eligibility, volunteers will complete a structured orientation administered by code compliance, including but not limited to an overview of the municipal code, the use of the GoGov report writing system and all other related technologies, safety and disengagement procedures such as situational awareness training and verbal de-escalation training, as well as vehicle operation where applicable. Volunteers must be at least 18 years of age, pass a background check, and execute all the required liability waivers that the city has. They must also possess a valid California driver's license and be willing to participate in the DMV pull notice. The program will require coordination with human resources for volunteer onboarding and processing. They will have to go through an application just like all other city employees. Risk management must consider operational and vehicle use requirements. At this time, we have had discussions with risk management, and they've advised that they are okay with the volunteers utilizing city vehicles for their performance of their duties. As limited as possible. Information technology will need to provide equipment and services needed. We're going to have to get a couple extra iPads and possibly some printers. And then fleet service will be involved in determining vehicle utilization and availability. We are short on vehicles, but we will make it work with what we have. So there is a limited fiscal impact here. Cost estimates are roughly about $50 per volunteer for a city-issued clothing to identify them as a volunteer, whether that be an embroidered polo or maybe a safety-style vest to go over their clothes. We're looking at procuring 2 iPads with cell service and then the cellular data that goes with those iPads, and then about $480 a year for a volunteer management software program. This program has been modeled after the city of Eastvale. I had an opportunity to meet with their code manager and their director of community safety and technology, and they have a very successful volunteer program that's assisting their code compliance division. They earmark about $20,000 a year specifically for their volunteer program and never come close to meeting that mark. So it's not an expensive endeavor to open a volunteer program. The estimated indirect costs are approximately $3,000, and that's going to be already paid for staff hours. So that's going to be at least 4 hours of my time to make sure that they're getting the correct verbal de-escalation, situational awareness training, and how we operate. And then it's going to be staff time, code compliance officer staff time, to do side-by-side ride-alongs with them until we feel that they are trained and adequate enough in their duties to be let out on their own to start assisting us. The recommendation is recommended that the city implement the Community Enhancement and Education Program as a 12-month pilot program, so that way we can gauge volunteer participation, community engagement, the effectiveness of the program, and if there is fiscal sustainability in continuing a long-term volunteer program. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right, I don't see anyone. Council, do we have questions? We know Mayor Pro Tem always has questions. Go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation, Justin. My question is, why will we not allow them to perform the same duties as a COP, Citizens on Patrol?
So the Citizens on Patrol fall under the police department and have a different purview on what it is that they're doing. The reason behind this being more education-based is, one, we don't want to take away from what we pay our code officers to do. We have MOUs and we have adopted positions that are required to write citations and operate a certain way, and we don't want to take away from that.
Now, have we talked to the union to make sure, because this is about negotiating with the union and make sure that we are not taking away from them, from their labor, or cutting any employees from the Code Enforcement Division, correct?
Correct.
So if we negotiate with them that we're not doing so, and all we're doing is to improve their job, couldn't that be negotiated? Because it will be, the Citizen Patrol have a great program in which they're allowed to tow vehicles, mark vehicles, tow vehicles, and do other duties that you can say do not take away from police officers' duties, and they're allowed to do it.
Right. At this time, we haven't talked to the union. We can explore that discussion. But I think the emphasis on this program is different than the COP program. We would encourage people who want to go that route to apply for a COP position then. This program is more designed for education, outreach, enhancement, being that liaison and assisting us with some of those other non-enforcement duties.
Talking to our previous police chief, his intent was to actually, if we came up with this program like you did, like you're coming up with now, to have them take their training as a COP volunteer and do the duties that code enforcement officers do. Just train him for it, but be allowed and have the knowledge to do so. And I don't see a reason why we can't explore that. Of course, first, negotiating with the unions and say, we're not going to do this. Negotiate with them first, and then put the volunteers to this program and just cross-train them and have them do so. I mean, even though this is just a pilot program, I would like to keep that in mind for the future, and definitely negotiate with the union as soon as possible, so we can, because a lot of people that I've talked to that want to be volunteers, they don't want to just be pointers, just pointing things out and have anything to do, because this might overwhelm, as our mayor pro tem, or as our mayor mentioned in the past. We should be happy that people are actually pointing things out on our app. Well, if we get volunteers, we should be happy that they're actually doing things for us, but we don't want to overwhelm you if they can do something without actually taking the code officer's time.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely talk to the union on that and get their input.
Thank you, but I'm very happy to actually.
So I think we have an MOU with the union. I don't think we can just change the terms.
No, of course, talk to them and
I
see
don't think
what
we
can do.
can force them into changing the terms, but I don't.
We do have some legal and employment-related issues that arise when we try to use an employee to make legal citations for the city, same as we would to have legal issues trying to have a volunteer non-employee make an arrest or something of that nature. So it's not just a matter of getting the unions okay. We'd have to go through and really look at whether or not we can, in fact, have volunteer unpaid individuals make code citations. There's some legal hurdles that we'd have to
We have,
go through and look at.
we have citizens on patrol that do that.
I don't know that the citizens on patrol issue code enforcement citations.
No, they actually they don't issue citations, but they are allowed to actually tow vehicles and stay there until the vehicle's towed. They're allowed to do a lot of things.
That's different than issuing a citation for code.
Yeah, I'm not saying
violation.
issue a citation, but be allowed to tow vehicles that have been illegally parked for a week, a month. That's different.
Yeah, I think that's somewhat apples and oranges.
So if Citizens on Patrol can do that,
Correct.
there could be a mechanism where if they observe that kind of thing, it could be referred to Citizens on Patrol. So,
Correct.
And I know this is proposed as a pilot program, so I think some of this would get adjusted or a new proposal come forward probably later. So, and you did make me glitch a couple of times when you said, and I think you were just misstating that they would do the same thing as a code compliance officer, because you can't do a volunteer program that replaces your paid employees.
No, correct. This will be assisting and improving their duties.
That's what I believed that you
Yes.
meant, but it came out a little bit different, so. All right, I see Councilmember
Thank
Lamb
you.
is in the queue.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, if your contacts are interested, I do have an opening. So if they want to
Well,
come
definitely
and
going
start
to
working,
reach
send
out
them
to
my
them
way.
again. I didn't keep their numbers, so I'm sure I'll reach out to them.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lamb.
Yes, and great idea, and I'm very supportive of this. And I was just asking, how are you getting the word out? I assume Discover Cathedral City or Discover Digest is, how would our residents know about this
Upon
opportunity?
council's direction, if you want to approve this program, then yes, we would use all of our
Okay.
social media.
Okay.
We may even do an up-to-code video.
Cute.
All
Nice.
the videos that the staff has been producing, maybe we can do one there. And then also partnering with Ryan to really get the word out there. And HR has already said that they would build out a volunteer application on the, where you'd go to find all of the other jobs.
Okay. Thank you. That was
So let me ask you, some of these activities, even though they're not enforcement, would be out in the community in a vehicle. Is your, what I would call a patrol type situation, is your thought that people would be allowed to do that solo, or they would be required to either double up with a code enforcement officer or at least 2 volunteers?
So I think at first, while they're in a training phase, they would absolutely have to be doubled up with active code officer until they are comfortable with the scope of their duties, exactly where they extend and what they are expected to do. And then at a point, eventually be able to go out on their own to assist with some of those projects.
Would they be equipped with a radio and a body camera then?
No body cameras. Code doesn't have body cameras.
Would they be equipped with a radio?
We do have radios.
Okay.
They would have to go through that training. They'd have to get certified. They'd have to go through.
I would be cautious about that, but I don't know what Eastvale does if they allow. Of course, Eastvale is a city full of cops, so.
Eastville program, the volunteers actually have their own fleet. They do have radios. They have a style of uniform that's different than their code officers, and they do go out on patrol, for lack of a better term. And they help follow up with certain cases. They'll collect photographs from the road right-of-way, maybe for transitory cases that just need a quick eyes on. And then they also provide that educational tool.
All right, excellent. So I did appreciate the Mayor Pro Tem pointing out that I'm saying that it's always good. We should be appreciative of residents when they do point out. I look at this as actually having people that are trained and maybe actually can help prioritize or, focus mostly on life safety issues. So I'm encouraged that we've been talking about this for a while, especially Mayor Pro Tem, but that this as a pilot program would be a good first step. And then from there, then an evaluation can be made as to maybe expanding a little bit, like what you were talking in Eastvale and other places. So I think, that it looks, I know we're not going to vote on this item, but my understanding is you're just looking for a consensus or a direction from us. So I think what's laid out here looks like a good, reasonable first step. So, Council? All right.
Awesome.
So I think that's the direction that we're giving.
Okay.
Are there any public comments on this item?
Just to remind members on Zoom to please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And Mayor, I did not receive any request to speak forms for in-person and no written comments. It appears we have no hands raised.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right, we are late enough in our meeting that we need to do some adjustment because we need to get our closed session in. We do have a high-priced attorney in waiting for us. So unfortunately, we will have to move the fire item to the end of our regular meeting agenda. So it'll be on agenda item 5E, unless there's objection from council. Then with that, we will go into closed session, and I will ask the city attorney if he will read the notification for closed session.
I'd be happy to do that, Mayor. This is a conference with your labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Your labor negotiator is Al Ford, Assistant City Attorney with my office, and Susie Soren, your Human Resources Manager. There is an error in the listing under employee organizations. It does list American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. That entity is not involved. However, the second entity, Cathedral City Firefighters Association, the CCFA, is involved. So our negotiations will only be with that entity today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, we will recess into closed session.
We're ready, Mayor.
All right, we're returning back from our closed session. I'll ask the city attorney to report out.
Mayor, thank you. We did complete item 3A. That was your conference with your labor negotiator. You did have a briefing from your labor negotiator and your HR director. There was no reportable action on the item, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With our other study session item already moved, we are now in recess, and we will be back for our regular meeting at 5:30 p.m.